If you've been in prison for about 23 years, you really must have done some bad shit. I mean, Cortez, what are you thinking? Like, armed robbery, some kind of like drug paraphernalia, maybe, or assault.
Yeah, a little bit of all that together, man. Murdered a few people on the way, man.
Yeah,
Just some
something.
illegal. You gotta be doing some serious stuff. That's like, isn't that considered life, man? 20 years is considered life, if I remember.
In this day and age, who knows? The way Rona's going, our life expectancies could be cut short. The point is, this guy was granted parole after 23 years in prison. But you know what he did? Take a guess, GPS, what he did.
I could have no clue.
None? Cortez, you have an idea?
I think I murdered somebody, man. I think I murdered somebody and was doing some narcotic sales, major narcotic sales, man.
No, well, not this guy. This Louisiana man who was sentenced to life in prison back in 97 was granted parole Thursday. The reason why he was sentenced to life, because he stole hedge clippers.
Seriously?
Dead serious. This individual, his name is Fairwayne Bryant, 63-year-old, will get a conditional release following a 3-0 vote of the Louisiana Committee on Parole that comes after he spent 23 years behind bars for the theft of the garden tools from a carport storage room in Shreveport. Now, how far is Shreveport from New Orleans, GPS?
About a 4-hour ride.
Okay. All right. Well, shout outs to our peoples down there in the bayou, down in New Orleans, Louisiana, down in Shreveport. But this case drew national attention earlier this year when a state Supreme Court panel denied the release despite a dissenting opinion from the court's only black justice, who called the case a modern manifestation of Jim Crow laws. These laws remained on the books in most of the southern states for decades. And this case demonstrates their modern manifestation, harsh habitual offender laws that permit a life sentence for a black man convicted of a property crime. Quote, the man's life sentence for a failed attempt to steal a set of 3 hedge clippers is grossly out of proportion to the crime and serves no legitimate penal purpose. Johnson also noted that taxpayers had spent nearly $519,000 to keep Bryant locked up and would dole out nearly $1 million if he were to stay in prison another 20 years. So he received this harsh sentence because he was convicted as a habitual offender. His record lists 22 arrests and 11 convictions, among them 4 felonies that included an attempted armed robbery in 1979. He told the parole panel that he struggled with alcohol and cocaine abuse at the time, and he had cleaned up his act in prison. So he mentioned that he had a drug problem, but he had 24 years to recognize that the problem and had to be constantly communicated with the Lord to help him get out of this situation. The conditions of Bryant's parole required him to attend Alcoholics Anonymous meetings that carries also a 9 to 6 a.m. curfew and community service. So, GPS, what's your view on this? Travesty, definitely.
I think they need to be more worried about the $519,000 and change that they spent just to house him over these fucking hedge clippers. Seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, if you knew this guy had a problem, why didn't you just put him on a work release thing? Put him, make him spend weekends in jail or something. Give him a job, make his community service gardening.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the $1 million you would have spent for the next 20, not the $500,000 you just spent.
I think I'd be more worried about that these laws are still on the books after all these decades, and nobody's trying to switch them.
The caseload. How many brothers and sisters are doing time for crimes such as stealing hedge clippers, man? It's quite a few, but it's not. I mean, I feel as though the penal system in general, the justice system in general, has never swayed to people of color. The reason why, we don't have enough representation. We need representation in all these positions of power. That's why even with the Supreme Court nominee that they're looking at now, I'm like, whoa, how is this going to look in the next couple of years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's going to
How
be
many,
affected?
yeah, how many black and brown folk are going to have to go in front of the Supreme Court to plead their case? And you will have this lopsidedness,
Mm-hmm.
but it's lots of folk out there in that same boat, man, that got put in jail for something that is not major, they didn't murder anybody, man. They didn't, they weren't a drug cartel, man. They weren't doing drug cartel type
Not at
activities, man.
all.
But that, the system needs to be turned upside down again, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, definitely. So we're glad that this individual has gotten out. It's just a shame that he's had to spend all these years in there. And yes, and you mentioned this earlier, GPS. Some people actually do have problems. They do have ailments, whether it be mental, physical, addictional type of ailments that they need help with. They just can't be looked at as cancer. And I'm going to use a horrible term, but you can't look at a person that's going through all these type of issues or one type of issue as like a cancerous growth. You have to try to help the individual as best as possible with by any means necessary.
Yeah, I agree with you. They have to be properly reinstitutionalized. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, with his situation, he said that he had substance issues, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, they should just made the man pay a fine. I don't think those hedge clippers is over a grand price wise. It
Probably
wasn't
weren't
like he was
even
on
they
grand.
probably weren't even $50.
That's what I'm saying. They seen a man in a weak situation. They took advantage of him, man.
Mm-hmm.
The DA, all of those motherfuckers down in New Orleans took advantage of this man. And unfortunately, it was a $5,000 gamble. The worst thing about it, and I tell my students this: once you get incarcerated and you do time, you can't even vote. You don't even. They don't even consider you a citizen no more. They won't even let you vote. Then when you do get out, you have a hard time finding employment, man, because that's
Mm-hmm.
on your permanent record that you did
Yeah,
time.
that's right.
So you can't really accumulate any wealth. You've been locked up for 20 years, and now you had to start over from ground zero and try to
Mm-hmm.
accumulate wealth. It's a hard thing to do, man.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep,
get
there.
out, you pushing how like 40 or 50 or whatever. Nobody want to hire your ass. You're
Mm-hmm.
too old.
And in this case, this individual, he's 63, I believe. I think he's 63 years old. Let me just double check that. Yes, he is 63 years old. So, how many opportunities can you have at that age?
The pool is dried up, man. So it's like when you lock somebody down, I think that's the worst punishment you can give somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You taking away everything. You taking away their future, their life. I got buddies that have been locked up, man. I had one guy, man. I used to hang out with him and everything. He
Mm-hmm.
got locked up. He came out and he went right back in there, man. There's
Ah.
the reason why he went back right back in there. Opportunities, man. They weren't no. It was a lot of opportunities when he got out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he was branded as being a convict.
Okay.
So he went right back into that lifestyle again, man. No questions asked. He went right back into it again
Mm-hmm.
because there wasn't nothing out there for him when he came out because he was locked up so long, man. He wasn't able to accumulate wealth or anything, man. So if he gets back out again, he gonna be old as hell with nothing, man.
GPS. In light of this situation, and there's many other situations like this that occur, whether it be down south or anywhere throughout the country. What do you tell your kids to do, and how hard is it to make sure that they stay on the straight and narrow?
Well, as my son gets to closer to graduating, we had this talk a couple weeks ago. He says to me, I asked him, what are his plans as after he graduates?
Mm-hmm.
He says he's going to take a year off and
Mm.
then maybe he'll do this, maybe he'll do that. And I said, absolutely the hell not. Work, school, or service. Those are your options.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But staying busy keeps you out of trouble.
Yeah.
You can say Chris did something sometime today, but I can guarantee you will have either found me at work, home for a short time,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, you wouldn't have been able to find me because you would have had no idea what the hell I was.
I got an ankle bracelet on you, buddy. I can find you anytime.
Mm-hmm.
I know where you work at. Well, no, I don't. You do work in too many places. Anyway.
Yeah, see, that's it. You have that,
Hey, man.
no, you gotta stay, you gotta stay busy,
Mm-hmm.
and because just being out, hanging out somewhere, and something happens and you just happen to be there, guess what? You got a lot of people in jail just because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, man. That's true. 100%.
And then what?
That's what I'm saying. It's not luxury, man. This is not luxury to take a year off, man. This ain't. And it was funny, man. Many years ago, and GPS was with me at governor's school.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Promise Governor School of PA, man. Yeah, 99. Was it 1999? 1990 we went, man. We were in there.
92.
And I never
91 or 92.
Yeah, 91, 92. I never forget, man. And we had these sessions, man. They sat down, the instructors would talk with us about different things, different life choices. And I remember one of the art instructors told me, he got us, all the art students together, man, the visual art students. We sitting around talking. And he was like, what do y'all want to do with your lives? And I stood up front. I was like, well, I'm going to college. I'm going to college.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, why don't you take a break?
Ooh.
And he said that I had to check him, man. 'Cause I was like, where I come from, if I take a break, I may not come back. And he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I don't think he understood what I was saying. I don't think he understood what I was talking about and what I had to go through, because my neighborhood that I was in, man, if I took a year off, man, and forgot about college, I probably would not have went back. I probably would not have went to college at all, man. You don't have the luxury to take a year off. You really don't. You need to either be in the military working or going to college. If not, what's going to happen? You already got bullseye on you, a social bullseye on you already.
That's true. You always got a strike against you already.
Yeah, so you go out there, you could be at a party, just like what Mr. GPS is saying. You could be at a party, minding your own business, and you fit the you fit the description of somebody that did some dirt a few blocks down, and you get locked up or whatever. And keep in mind, you didn't do anything, but because you looked the part, they automatically assume that you're guilty, man.